Good evening. First and foremost, let me just give a sincere thank you for everything that each and every one of you all do for our programs. Without your support, various endeavors such as raising funds and coordinating many of our events, well, things just would be very difficult to achieve, so thank you. Now, many of you guys have been so giving, it truly makes me proud to be a part of this family. Many of you have gone through this program and have been a part of this program since it was smaller up to where it is today. Now, I would like to start off by telling you a story. The other night, my wife, my kids, myself, we were just at home relaxing, on the one of the very few nights that I actually get to be home early. And we were there, we were watching ABC Family or one of those channels, I can't remember. However, the movie The Blind Side was on. Now, it being a movie having to do with football, of course I was on board for watching it. No, and we were there watching it, and it gets to this part where they're trying to recruit this young man, and they're recruiting him like there was no tomorrow. They're promising him the world. Now, my wife tells me, wouldn't it be nice if our baby boy would get scholarships like that and offers like that where we can go visit him and he can have everything he ever wanted? And that got me thinking. How many parents believe that this is the way the recruiting process actually works? My wife is very naive when it comes to things like this, and I'm thinking she can't be the only one out there that thinks this is the way it works. So that brings us here to tonight. There are several topics that are on board for tonight's meeting, but the main reason why I am here is to discuss life for our kids, for our students, and for our athletes after high school. What are the possibilities of playing sports after high school, and can sports be an avenue that can lead our children into top-notch colleges and universities? Now, sports can be such a demanding part of our everyday lives. Our athletes endure countless hours of practice. They go through numerous injuries, and they play through these injuries at times very hurt. Now, they enjoy victories. They go through the suffering of agony of defeat. Their emotions are poured into the games that these kids love. However, the sacrifice not only falls upon them, but upon the parents as well. Parents have just as much devotion to these sports that their children participate in. They are there providing a support system that us coaches are not able to do. Now, what parents need to understand though is the benefits of playing high school sports and what it could possibly lead to after graduation. Now, for all these sacrifices, I'm sure you've envisioned the day when you open an envelope and learn that your child's athletic ability has earned them a full tuition scholarship for 4 years at their dream university. Now, unfortunately, this moment may be actually the hardest to achieve. I will attempt to clarify some of these misconceptions that are commonplace amongst parents as their child nears the end of their high school careers. Now, playing at the next level is one of the goals many high school athletes have set for themselves. Many have had this goal since they were very young. They were playing in leagues such as Pop Warner. We have smaller leagues such as Taifa nowadays. Now, many athletes, have this in mind, but they are also instilled by their parents to have this goal in mind. They have invested their young lives trying to reach this goal. Now, the first clarification that I would like to provide to you is the level of competition at the next level at collegiate athletes. In the state of Texas, colleges and universities are classified on many different levels. Without a doubt, the ultimate goal for some of our athletes is to get an NCAA Division I scholarship. However, there are so many other opportunities that are available to our athletes that we cannot solely be focused on our one Division I earning and limit the chances of our athletes getting into other programs that are available, which could provide a higher education, which should be our ultimate goal. In the state of Texas, there are many different schools that offer some form of athletic program, and many of those will offer some form of scholarship to help with funding of their schooling. Now, we will get into the scholarships in one moment. However, I want to get into the schooling. In Texas, 23 schools offer an athletic program at the Division I level. There are 14 at the Division II, and there are currently 15 schools that are in the Division III program. And that is only through the NCAA, which is the most popular governing body. There are smaller umbrellas out there which other students have opportunities to play. Now, we as parents need to open our minds to our kids not only playing at the major universities. There are many other schools across the state that would allow our kids to play at the next level. But again, more importantly, and I've emphasized, will give our kids the chance to receive a higher education. If your child does not get a scholarship to play at the University of Texas, Texas A&M, Baylor, okay, that does not mean that they should not resume their careers at the next level. By opening our minds to all these other schools that the state has to offer, we can start the process of trying to gain one of those coveted scholarships. Now, a scholarship is the ultimate goal, but this is an area where we need the most clarification of all. There are many misconceptions that are associated with scholarships, and I will try and clarify just a few of these. Okay? Now, according to an article from US News, as of 2010, the average award for an NCAA Division I athlete is slightly under $23,000, which is a significant amount of money. And a Division II athlete will get about $10,000 or slightly above that. Now, the most widely recognized school in Texas has to be the University of Texas in Austin. Now, many of our children have dreamt of growing up and becoming Texas Longhorns. If we look at the cost of attending even UT, college data will show that the cost is around $27,000. Now, many parents think that because you receive a scholarship to a university, that all expenses will be paid for on your behalf. That is not the case in many situations. As you can see in the UT example, there is a deficit that either parents or students will be responsible for if they were to receive just the average scholarship. Now, like I mentioned earlier in this speech, there are various levels of competition in our state. And because of that, there are also various different levels of financial assistance that they will provide to you. Very few athletes at the Division II level will receive a full scholarship that covers all of their expenses. But most of them will receive some financial help that will aid them through school. For the rest of their expenses, student athletes are on their own, using either academic scholarships, they can use student loans, they can have employment earnings just like most other students in Division II institutions. Student athletes who play their sport at Division III level do not receive financial aid relating to their athletic ability. But they might qualify for other means of funding, such as, again, academic scholarships or more traditional sources like financial aid and student loans. The thought that students receive an athletic scholarship and have everything paid for is a huge misconception, and we need to understand that it's just not the case most of the time. Even if your child were lucky enough to get a full ride scholarship, that pays for tuition, room and board, and books. Now, some schools have now began to provide a stipend for meals, but that might not always be the case. So that would leave all other expenses, and that would be, again, going back to the students or to the parents. Now, there are no travel rewards for parents. There are no cell phones that are being given out. There is no clothing that is not sport related. So all of those extra expenses would have to be incurred again by the parents or the students, and they will have to find some other means to try and pay for that. Which again, it can be in our very expensive world, it can add up to a lot of money. Now, another item that we need to address is the difference between a head count sport versus an equivalency sport. Now, those are terms that might not be familiar with many individuals, but they are terms that need to be identified as they are very crucial in the access of scholarships. Now, many of you have children that play either football or volleyball. Those are probably the most popular sports in high school. Now, those two sports would fall under an NCAA sanction that we call a head count sport. Now, what a head count sport is, it means that the school is restricted to the number of athletes that it can provide a scholarship to. Now, in a head count sport, you can either be an athlete on a full ride scholarship, or you can be a walk-on. There is absolutely no middle ground. So it's either 100% or you walk on and you're basically paying for it on your own. On the other hand, equivalency sports have no restrictions on the number of athletes, but rather the number of scholarship monies that they have available, which means that they can divide up the amount of scholarships amongst athletes that they deem worthy. Your child might not get a full ride, but they might get a proportion of the money to help funding for their school. For example, they might get 50% as opposed to a full ride. Now, depending on the sport that your child is thinking of playing at the next level, can also have an effect as to how much money that they get. I am sure that many of you are also aware about a campaign that has been going on over the past several years about getting student athletes to get paid for their services and for their participation in college sports. Now, in 2014, the NCAA had a revenue of $989 million. Now, let's just think about that for a moment. That is almost $1 billion that it made in 1 year. Okay, now surely there has to be some money for the students to make. I mean, that's an absurd amount of money. Now, half of that money actually goes back, and it goes back to the schools, which in turn they provide to scholarships. Now, don't get me wrong, college athletics, like I said, provides an insane amount of money as a business. But that is not what we are trying to get our athletes to do. Athletes getting paid is not likely going to happen anytime soon. However, scholarships that are provided to the student athletes, that is what is important. And without these scholarships, many times we as parents cannot provide the education and the costs that are associated with them. So please, again, do not leave this meeting thinking that I am saying there's no chance for our kids to have athletic scholarships and play at the next level. That is not what I am saying at all. However, gaining a scholarship is a very competitive endeavor, and they need to make themselves as qualified as possible. By doing good in the classroom, they might open other avenues of monetary assistance, such as academic scholarships. According to the NCAA, only about 2% of high school athletes are awarded athletic scholarships to compete in college. So we need to open as many opportunities for our athletes to receive different awards. Every parent feels that their kids deserve a scholarship. They've put an enormous amount of time, they've invested most of their lives into these sports, and they want to reap those rewards. However, we need to grasp with the realities that getting a scholarship is extremely difficult, and it might not happen how we planned. However, with proper planning and an open frame of mind, there are avenues out there to get our kids competing at the next level. But more importantly, there are avenues to get our kids receiving a college education, which is the most rewarding benefit of the student-athlete experience. Once again, I would like to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to speak here tonight. And again, thank you for everything that you do for our programs. We would not have all the successes that we have if it wasn't for most of you. Actually all of you, sorry. But most importantly, thank you for raising such great children and allowing them to participate in our programs. And again, thank you, and please enjoy the rest of our planned festivities tonight.